The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley. I'm joined today, as always, by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, this week we'll be delving into the first round of the McCarthy Insuarnce Group Cork Football Championships as they threw in last weekend. But first we'll look at other things going on in the world of sport, I suppose. And one place to start, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, you might see a grin on the sports editor's face there, and there's a pretty good reason for that. Kerry were crowned All-Ireland Senior Football Champions for 2025. They did beat Donegal, 126 to 19 points. And while people in West Cork might not be too pleased, one man that is the editor, Kieran McCarthy. So take it away, Kieran.
Yeah, no, cheers, Matthew. I thought you weren't going to reference it since I landed into the office on Monday. No one's even mentioned the All-Ireland final to me. Kind of funny that, isn't it? You know, kind of the lads here in the office. But no, probably wasn't the final that people were expecting. You know, kind of I heard people say it afterwards was a kind of anticlimactic. You know, I suppose you were looking at it from that Kerry perspective. It certainly wasn't. Kind of Kerry did what they had to do when they won the game. Kind of, but it was just. Like I was up there on Sunday, I was sitting in the Devon, and just to watch, whether it's Kerry or Rossa or he's playing for East Kerry, just to watch Clifford in motion. Honest to God, Matthew, it's like it's good for anyone here in West Cork over the next couple of weeks when the Kerry championships when they throw in when Rossa or East Kerry are in action. If your own club here in West Cork isn't playing, just head across the county bounds and watch the man play, because he's just a joy. You know, he really is. I think he's gone to a different level this year. I don't what you think, Matthew. I just think he's taken on his game. Like there's an aggression to his game now, but also a maturity, and he's just an exceptional footballer, isn't he?
He is, and actually on my Gaelic Statsman handle on X, I put out a tweet that actually went viral enough, to be fair, saying that the top scorers from play over the last few years, he had, I think Colin Baskell scored 417, Con O'Callaghan was in there with about 411 in both seasons. And then you put up David Clifford's number, 8 goals and 48 points for playing the championship. That's remarkable, you know, that's unreal stuff. I think 8 goals and 62 points, that's a record championship top scores tally as well. Like the guy was so good this year, and you look at the new rules as well, they definitely suited him. Even the 3 2-pointers he's got in the first half as well, and even the 4 2-pointers Kerry got, Clifford got 3, and then he was fouled for 1 for the Sean O'Shea free as well. So he was involved in everything that Kerry did. But funnily enough, he didn't get man of the match. It was Gavin White that got man of the match. So to be fair, Gavin White had a good game as well. But it just goes to show here, and scoring 9 points from play in an All-Ireland final and not getting man of the match. I know that point very well, but...
Yeah, it's almost like if David Clifford is just kind of, he's judged differently to every other player. Like he's that good, as in, for David Clifford to get man of the match in an All-Ireland final, like what does he have to do? Like he almost got the goal, you know. If he got the goal from open play and he scored 1-9, okay, maybe there's a more of an argument. Then Gavin White was exceptional. Like he was like straight in the throw in, he kind of set the tempo. But Clifford is just a joy to watch, and it's like you see people kind of describe him almost Messi-like, the way, especially in that first half, he was kind of under the Hogan stand, you know, kind of almost directing the play over towards the Cusack, but then within a click of a finger and the flash is gone, you know, and he boots over a 2-pointer. And I know from the Kerry perspective, it was a super day for Kerry football. But even looking at it kind of with a West Cork and Cork hat on, it's where do you think this leaves Cork now? Kind of seeing that Cork twice put it up to Kerry, you know, kind of going into the Munster Championship and the All-Ireland group stage. Is this almost I'm not going to say is this a good thing for Cork that Kerry won, but should this start to put things in a bit of perspective of where this Cork football team is under John Cleary, that they're able to push the best team in the country, albeit with the caveat is I think in the last 3 games, Kerry have just gone to a different level to what we saw earlier in the year. Those wins over Armagh, Tyrone, and now Donegal. But do you think, from looking at it from a Cork point of view, is there anything that Cork can glean off Kerry winning the All Ireland and kind of use it as hope for the future?
I think there is largely many positives, in my opinion. Even look at Kerry winning the All Ireland, considering Cork put it up to them. For one thing, Donegal didn't create any goal chance in the All Ireland final. Cork created plenty in both games against Kerry. And the problem with Cork, and this has been the problem all year, really, we have discussed it in depth here, was the goal scoring chance taking. Like, I think Cork scored 2 goals in the championship, both by Chris O'Jones. We just didn't take enough goals, and that was probably the downfall of the Cork team in general. But across the landscape, I think the historic football counties are rising as well. You look at not just Cork, but Meath beat Kerry as well. And I know Meath ended their championship with a 20-point defeat, but even then Cork beat Meath as well in the league. Cork were close against Meath and things like that as well. I do think those historic counties, the Cork, the Meaths, the Downs as well, are rising to a new level. And then you have Dublin and Mayo that are kind of taking a dip. And even look at that qualifier game against Dublin. I think Cork would have a lot of regrets, I would say, over that in terms of the results. Cork were probably the better team of the day, and they just couldn't get over the line. That was the most annoying part. But even we'll discuss the club championship in a sec. There are some forwards out there that put up some really, really good tallies, and some of them are involved in Cork setups already, which is actually a positive thing to note as well. So to be honest, like, a lot of people aren't talking about Cork being up there among All Ireland contenders. They're more so talking about Meath, they're more so talking about Armagh, Donegal, and all them counties. But Cork are definitely up there, in my opinion. But the thing is, the main thing for Cork, I think, is to get out of Division 2 next year. I know Meath are there, Tyrone are there, Derry under new management with Kieran Meena there. That's going to be difficult. But the main thing for Cork to be taken seriously is to get out of Division 2. Yes, there's difficult games down there, but if you want to play the Kerrys, the Dublins, the Donegals on a regular basis, then that's the level you need to get to. And not just Kerry as well. Cork did beat Donegal in Páirc Uí Rinn last year as well, and they were All Ireland finalists this year. So I still think there is a lot of positives in terms of the players that they have. The defence, I think, is set enough. The midfield, Colin McCann, Liam Maguire is very good. The problem is, I don't think it's goal chance taken genuinely. Like, I think I did a piece in the Star a few weeks ago, maybe in preview to the Dublin game, and I think we had, what was it, 30 goal chances in the last 6 or 7 games before the Dublin game, and we only took 1, which was very, very, or maybe 2. I think Colin McCallan scored a goal against Lowe, but goal scoring is the main thing from this Cork team. I think they need to take more goal chances to be more competitive next season.
I think so, right. Kind of like for Cork are now, like, I don't think Cork are kind of near All Ireland contenders. Like, I think what we've seen is in this championship is a lot more compact than it was a couple of years ago. Obviously, when Dublin were the best team in the land and everyone was playing catch up. What we had now was, as the championship progressed, it was Kerry that went out in front. But even it was very interesting in the lead up to the All Ireland final. There was a lot tipping Donegal, as in kind of it was seen as a real 50-50. But obviously, with the championship now finished, we have our kind of our pecking order. You've Kerry there first, and then you've a tranche of teams behind them. But I think for Cork, seeing what Meath did this year and getting to an All Ireland semi final, that has to be the target and the hope for Cork. As in, if a team like Meath can do it, why can't Cork? You know, as in there has to be something like that. As in, we'll know quite soon whether John Cleary is going to stay on or not. The mood music suggests that he will. What his management team will look like then, we'll have to wait and see. You'd assume that there will have to be a couple of changes there just to freshen it up going into 2026. I know it doesn't kind of rest easy here in Cork that the crowd across the county bounds have Sam Maguire for the winter, but that's the level now. And John Hayes writes about it in this Thursday Southern Star, like Kerry now the level that every team has to get to. And you talk about forwards and Cork's lack of forwards in terms of clinical goal scoring forwards. If you look at that Kerry attack and the scores that they have up there, kind of the game has really opened up. You see the amount of scores now, kind of what Kerry put up on the run to the All Ireland title. What Cork need is their scoring forwards, you know. And we're going to talk about the championships, like you said, quite soon, Matthew, and who's standing up there already. But I think it's just going to be quite interesting what the landscape's going to look like going into to 2026. You're dead right. Cork need to get out of Division 2. They need to unearth a couple of bodies throughout the championship. But for now, Sam rests in Kerry.
Exactly so, and we'll see if Sam does rest with Kerry next season as well. And will Jack O'Connor stay on? That's another kind of question being branded about during the week as well. Sticking with the intercounty scene, there were two Cork teams in the ladies' sides of the game that did very, very well over the last weekend. Obviously, the obvious one we'll have to start with. The camogie team are into a fifth All-Ireland final in a row. They beat Waterford 121-111. And I suppose this game is kind of weird here in the sense Cork were in trouble nearly at half-time. Waterford were leading 1-7 points. Waterford, in fairness to them, were performing very, very well. And Cork seemed to be in a tricky enough situation. But it probably epitomises where this Cork team is at, that they were able to ride that storm in a way. And in the second half, they outscored Waterford. I think it was 112 to 4 points in the second half. Look, I think that was absolutely devastating. Saoirse McCarthy, who we had on last week's podcast, got 7 points on the day. Obviously, Orla Mullins off the bench with 1-2. And like Saoirse did talk about Cork's depth in the squad. Orla Mullins can't get a start, and she comes on and gets 1-2 from play. That's absolutely brilliant in fairness from her. Katrina Mackey doing well as well as Amy O'Connor, Emma Murphy, all them players. So look, Cork are in a good place in terms of that, and it's probably the test they needed in a way in the semi-final too.
Yeah, we'd actually said it on this podcast, I think a couple of times about you, that this Cork team needed a gut check at some stage, because they would be asked to go to the well. They're going to dig deep to find answers, because up to now, they were blowing every team away. You know, like this Cork team is so impressive. And Waterford did ask questions of Cork. Like you said, they were up at half-time. Waterford led by 4 points at one stage in that first half. But what's so encouraging and impressive for Cork is that they found the answers, and they kind of pulled away in the end. Orla Mullins coming off the bench getting, was it 1-1 or 1-2? You know, that's putting her hand up for selection for the All-Ireland final. I think I saw Joe Manley was saying afterwards that Cork brought Orla Mullins in. I think it was a game against Wexford, and that means she wasn't involved in the All-Ireland under-23 final that Cork then lost, you know. So, but it shows, I think, the high regard that they have for Orla Mullins. But that's just the type of competition that Cork need in the panel, and this was just the type of game that Cork wanted before an All-Ireland final against Galway. Because what we have now is we have the best two teams in the country facing off on August 10th up in Croke Park. Cork have had the upper hand over Galway in most recent encounters. But before that, Galway were almost like Cork's bogey team. But the roles have switched now. Go back to last year's All-Ireland final. Cork won, I think, 116-16. They met in the Division 1 League final earlier in the year. I think Cork won by 10 or 11 points. So this is a Cork team that they'll have great respect for Galway. But this Galway team doesn't hold any fear for them, because they've had, like I said, they've had that upper hand in recent times. What's really important now is, for Cork, there'll be a lot of noise about the 3 in a row. There really will. As in, this could be the first Cork camogie team in over 50 years to kind of win 3 All-Ireland senior titles in a row. So you have that expectation and you have that pressure. And I have a piece in Thursday Southern Star, Matthew, just about how the Cork hurlers collapse should be a lesson and a warning for the Cork camogie team. And Saoirse McCarthy kind of touched it too in last week's podcast chat with you, when she was saying that after watching Cork lose All-Ireland hurling final to Tipperary, it almost focuses the mind kind of just to kind of go out and get it, you know, as in kind of to finish the job. And that's what this Cork team needs to do. They need to keep their feet in the ground for another 2 weeks and go finish the job and just cement their place as the number 1 team in the country, because that's what they are. But they need to produce the goods in Croke Park on August 10th now.
Exactly so, and we'll discuss the game against Galway in more depth in next week's podcast. Obviously, that is the second year in a row that Cork and Galway face in the All-Ireland final. And in the minor LGFA All-Ireland final, there was joy for Cork as well, beating Dublin 3-11 to 3-2, and there was big West Cork involvement in this game. Kerry from Ilen Rovers got 2-3 from play. Ava O'Donovan from O'Donovan and Rossa got 1-2 in this game as well. And obviously the captain of the Cork team was Ali Tobin, and there were celebrations in the O'Donovan Rossa club afterwards as well. I suppose it's absolutely brilliant to see, Kieran, that these 3 girls have done are not just part of the Cork squad, but are one of the main, or 3 of the main players in the Cork team as well. It's absolutely brilliant to see.
It's great for kind of West Cork ladies football that you have kind of super talented players on the way up, because this is a region known for its kind of top class footballers over the years. Even look at the Cork senior team right now. You've Laura Mahoney from Skibbereen, you've Libby Coppinger from Cahill, you've Melissa Duggan from Dohenys. Before that, you've obviously the likes of Martin O'Brien from Ballinascarty, Orla Finn, Kinsale. It's been a real Neve Cotter out in Glengariff, kind of Anya Terry O'Sullivan. Who can forget Anya Terry? Obviously Cork Senior out from Allies, and they're just a few of the talented players that have come from this region to play with Cork. And now you've the next generation on the way up. Like you mentioned, Ali Tobin there, the Cork captain. Like what an honour for her to bring her teammates back down to Skibbereen on Saturday night when they had the cup, and they had great celebrations. Then the likes of Ava O'Donovan, another talented young O'Donovan Rossa player, and then Kate Carey from Ilen Rovers. And for Kate, Ava, and Ali, all three were on the Skibbereen Community School team that won the All-Ireland Senior A title earlier this year when they beat Loreto College from Cavan. And you go back to 2023, Ava and Ali were on the O'Donovan Rossa team that won the All-Ireland Junior Club Championship. So these are young, talented local footballers who've already won All-Irelands at various levels. For Ava and Ali, they've won All-Irelands with club, school and county. Kate Carey now has won an All-Irelands with her school and her county, and she was player of the match as well. Like to get 2-3 in an All-Ireland final is exceptional, and her two goals were so well taken. You know, she's quite a talent, and I think it's just great for the local clubs, and it's great for even the younger girls around West Cork to see. Obviously, you've the Melissas and the Libbies at the senior level, but to see an Ava and an Ali and a Kate with the Cork Minors, I think it's just really important, because if we go back even a couple of weeks ago, the Cork under-14s won the All-Ireland too, and there was a real kind of West Cork connection to that team as well, from Iben ladies from Clonakilty again, St. Columns, Kilmacabea, they'd players involved. So I think it's just great for the region, great for West Cork ladies football, and obviously good for Cork ladies football too.
It's absolutely fantastic, and congratulations to everybody involved with the minor Cork ladies football team. We'll take a quick break now, and after the break we'll be discussing everything about the Cork Football Championship opening weekend.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So welcome back to the podcast, and we will delve into the Cork Football Championship. It was the opening weekend of the championship. So we'll start off with Premier Senior and we'll go all the way down to Premier Junior. So starting off with Premier Senior, just a quick run of the results. In Group 1, we had Group 3, we had Ballincollig playing against Nemo Rangers. Nemo Rangers winning that game 116-114. And in the other game in that group, Douglas beat St. Michael's 112 to 4 points. In Group 1, we had Newcestown beating Valley Rovers 119 to 16 points, and Castlehaven beating Mallow 113 to 12 points. And then in Group 2, you had Clonakilty losing to St. Finbarr's 113 to 112, and then Carbery Rangers being pipped at the last minute by a late Carrigaline point. Carrigaline beating them 211 to 113. So I suppose there, Kieran, there's a lot of headline stories from a West Cork point of view there. I suppose the game to start with is Clonakilty losing to St. Finbarr's eventually. Decent enough game in the first half. Obviously, Conor Daly struck the net for Clonakilty, but then St. Finbarr's got a goal back with Brian Hayes and Ian Maguire playing a part in Conor Dennehy's finish in the first half as well. Team Clon will be disappointed with that result. I know it's a point defeat to the Bars, but then again, the Bars are one of the favourites for the county, whereas Clon, you could argue, are trying to get to that stage as of now. So how do you think they'll be feeling?
I think they will be disappointed. They had chances in this game, so they'll be disappointed to miss out for a couple of reasons. Obviously, puts Clonakilty on the back foot straight away. I know they have games against Carrigaline and Carbery Rangers to come, but we know how important it is to win the first game in the championship. Seeing it is a kind of a 3 game. You have 3 games in your group, to try and advance to the knockout stages. Secondly, what I think it'll be disappointing is this is a chance for Clonakilty to beat one of the big 3. Obviously, you've Castlehaven, St. Finbarr's and Nemo. They've been passing around the cup for the last couple of years. They are the best 3 teams in the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship. Clonakilty want to force their way in there, but to do that, they need to beat these teams, and this is an opportunity to take down one of the big guns, and they came up short. You know, like they kind of go back a couple of weeks ago when they met in the Division 1 League final. Like that was a cracking game. Was it Sherlock got 18 points that day, 17 or 18 points? Was it 1 point from play last weekend, something like that? All right. So like they really did have their homework done on Sherlock. I think it's just disappointing for Clonakilty that they didn't get the job done. Obviously, they've the games coming up. Carrigaline is the next up. That's a huge game, you know. Especially Carrigaline after beating Carbery Rangers. So we're in a position here where with the two Carbery clubs, Clon and Carbery Rangers, have both lost their opening games, so they're both in the back foot in this game, and St Finbarrs and Carrigaline are now in pole position. So the next round of games, and I know it's probably a very cliched matchup, but it's crucial, it's kind of, it's win or bust, kind of for Ross and for Clon, they need to win their next games. Otherwise, instead of looking up, you're looking behind you.
You mentioned Ross, they're obviously losing to Carrigaline. That is a tough defeat to take, even more so for Ross, because they face St Finbarrs next in Bandon. That is a difficult game for Carbery Rangers. And in reality, when they are facing St Finbarrs and Clonakilty in the next two games, they probably needed to win this one. With the greatest respect to Carrigaline, obviously, they deserve their victory, but Ross would be sickened, wouldn't they, with that loss?
They will. Like, they were 5 points down at the break, and they came back. They did so well in the second half. The second half performance was a lot better, but to lose this game to Carrigaline, like, first off, it's a brilliant win for Carrigaline, and Tom Lyons was covering the game for us, and he was talking to Brian O'Driscoll afterwards, the former Tadhg McCarthy footballer who's now playing with Carrigaline, and he was making out that there isn't much between the teams, and it's going to be obviously a lot to play for in the weeks ahead. But there can't be any underestimating how big a win this is for Carrigaline when you consider that their next two games, much like with Ross, are against the Bars and Clonakilty, who would be seen as the two favourites to advance from this group. So all of a sudden, the pressure is now on Carbery Rangers. They were stuck in a relegation battle last year. They don't want to be involved in that again this year. But the Bars next up, like, that's going to be that's a huge game, And if we're calling it right now, like, you have to be honest, like, Bars would be favourites to win that game. So you could have the position going into the final round of games where Carbery Rangers are on no points, and they could be taking on a Clonakilty team that needs to win to advance to the knockout stage. So I think everybody knew for both Carbery Rangers and Carrigaline that this first game was crucial. Both of them needed to win. They needed to win rather than looking to get to the knockout stage. First off, they both needed to win just to almost ease any relegation worries, because within the County Premier Senior Football Championship, there's kind of like you talked about the big three. You have your three favourites who you expect to be thereabouts, and then there's kind of the teams underneath it are kind of scrapping to get up there, but also battling to avoid going down to Senior A. So that's why I think this loss for Carbery Rangers, it'll sting, but they have a couple of weeks to kind of regroup, and they'll really have to put out all stops against the Bars, and if they can do that, it'll reignite our championship.
Exactly so, and we'll have to see what happens in that group in the next few weeks. The two West Cork teams lost in Group 2, but the two West Cork teams won in Group 1. Obviously, Castlehaven, as I mentioned there, beat Mallow by 4 points. And that was without Brian Hurley, who was suspended for this game. Mark Collins got 6 points on the board. Maguire got 3 points. And the goal from Jack Callahan was the big score in this one in separating themselves and Mallow. It was a sticky kind of a game for Castlehaven going into this, Kieran, considering Brian Hurley was suspended, considering Mallow were in the last 4 last year. And that do has some very good players, to be fair to them. But it shows the great side of the Haven squad more than anything that they did get over the line this one. And by 4 points, it seemed comfortable enough by the final scoreline there.
Yeah, this is just the start that Castlehaven would have wished for, because this was a tricky game. If you go back to last season's championship, like you mentioned, Matthew, that Mallow got to the semi-finals. They also beat the Bars in the group stage as well. So and I think Castlehaven would have played Mallow in the quarter-final going back a season before that too. So Castlehaven were kind of well warned. They knew how this is a tricky first hurdle to jump, but they did just that. Like Mark Collins, 6 points. You mentioned Jack Callahan's goal there. Conor Maguire finished with 3 points, and then Bjorn Maguire, Michael Hurley, Conor Callahan, Sean Brown, they all kicked a score each. So good scoring spread there for Castlehaven, and I think almost psychologically to win the game without Brian Hurley is another positive. Brian was suspended off the back of the red card that he got for Castlehaven against Crokes in the Munster Club Championship at the end of last year. It's just that the red card carried into the championship game. So for Castlehaven to beat Mallow by 4 points, to do it without Michael Hurley, who'll come back in for their next game now, I think it's just box ticked for Castlehaven. They know that they'll have work to do. They know that they need to improve, but it's just the start that they wanted, because look at the likes of Damien Callahan, who had a really good game at fullback, and Jack Callahan coming back into the Castlehaven football setup. They've been involved with the Cork hurlers for the last number of weeks, months even. So over the next few weeks, they can kind of get more involved, kind of find their feet with football again. So just the start to Castlehaven would have wanted. But what about Newcestown? Can we talk about David Buckley kicking 12 points? Kind of superb performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely unreal. Like 12 points, 3 2-pointed frees. I think it was 1 2-pointer. He got 4 2-pointers in this game as well. And he is a real weapon for the Cork footballers to have in many people's opinions. You look at, obviously, Mark Cronin had a good performance for Nemo, to be fair to him as well. We'll talk about Chris O maybe in a sec as well. But Danny's encouraging that a guy kind of on the fringe of the Cork football panel at the moment can kick that tally in a Premier Senior game, the highest level of Cork club football. That's absolutely brilliant. And just for Newcestown's kind of confidence as well, even to get this win when they're facing Mallow next, if they manage to beat Mallow and Castlehaven beat Valley Rovers, the Newcestown are already in the knockout stage. So they've put themselves in a brilliant position, number one. Number two, Buckley, as you mentioned, what a performance.
Exactly, yeah, kind of. And I think that's quite important what you said there about for Newcestown being a dual Premier Senior club. Like they're just such a hectic schedule over the next couple of weeks when they're juggling both, obviously football. Now it's hurling before it goes back to football. So if the footballers can manage to kind of guarantee their spot in the knockout stages with a game to spare, like that's a dream scenario for Newcestown. But their first win now opens up that opportunity. Obviously they have to play Matter next, and that's going to be quite a tough game. But there's a chance there for Newcestown to achieve that, presuming that that Castlehaven, you would think, will win their next game. I know we can never assume anything, but you would assume that. But back to David Buckley for a second, like you said there, he was kicking 2-pointers, and I'm going to take it back to the All Ireland final for a second. Look at Kerry that first half. Was it 9 2-pointers they attempted? They landed 4 of them, 3 from Clifford and 1 from Sean O'Shea. Donegal, on the other hand, didn't. I think McCreary tried one in the second half that kind of drifted off wide towards the Devon end. Like Donegal weren't going for 2-pointers, but Kerry were. And I think what we'll find now with teams, whether it's intercounty or club, as they become more used to these new rules, you could see more 2-pointers. Like they're going to become such a big part of the game. So if you have players who are comfortable at kicking 2-pointers, I know Brian O'Driscoll did quite well for Cork this year. Like a David Buckley, who probably has a bit to go to get on the Cork senior team and always been on the panel. You'd hope he'd get his chance. To get the likes of a Sherlock, kind of with the way the new rules are, like and how you can kind of set fellas up for having a pop at a 2-pointer. It's a really strong weapon to have if you have a fella who can kick 2-pointers. And for Newcestown, great day for David Buckley and a great result for the team, and they look forward to the next round with confidence.
Exactly. So just looking there, I think Newcestown had the most 2-pointers out of any team, joined with Valley's. Actually, Valley got 4 as well. And when you look at the Bars got none, Nemo got none, Clon got only 1, Castlehaven I think only got 1 as well. So like it was the bigger level opposition didn't get enough 2-pointers, and the lower level teams did. So possibly
it's interesting, isn't it? It is. Yeah. It's like you still don't know what like I suppose teams are still getting used to these rules, but the 2-pointer, if you can master that or kind of set up opportunities for fellas to have a pop at a 2-pointer, if you have a really good kicker, as in like a 2-pointer, like again, I know it's an All Ireland final, but everyone of those deflated Donegal. It's like, and if you've a player like a Sherlock or a David Buckley or fellas who are comfortable at kind of kicking 2-pointers, I think it's a really strong asset for your team, and it's kind of, I suppose it's up to the kind of system of the team then to kind of set up those positions and scenarios where you're giving those players the opportunity to go for a 2-pointer. But I think how we're going to see the 2-pointer become more and more kind of part of the game is going to be kind of quite interesting. I think kind of we all know the new rules are kind of working out quite well for football. Like we're liking what we've seen, but like I said, once teams get more comfortable, I think we'll even see them step up a level again. So it's going to be maybe something to watch over the weeks ahead.
Maybe so, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. In the Senior A Championship, there was scorelines across the weekend. So Arrow beat Cantor 13 points to 10. Kilshannig beating Newmarket 118 to 14 points. Clyde Rovers beating Fermoy 311 to 111. And Killamatra and Knocknagree drawing 217 to 314. But the big group, from our point of view, Kieran, is Group 3, and the scorelines there were Bishopstown 115, Dohenys 113, and O'Donovan Rossa got a draw against Balog and Gaelic 112 to 15 points. Suppose for both O'Donovan Rossa and Dohenys will be disappointed, but considering Bishopstown, they have Brian Cuthbert over them this year, to do have great underage success. Maybe it was just a difficult game for Dohenys and they will be focused on the games against Skib and Ballingeary. But for O'Donovan Rossa, is that a point dropped in many ways? Because you have Bishopstown and Dohenys coming down the line. Would they regret that draw?
Yeah, for both Ballingeary and Skib, like is it 1 point loss or 1 point lost or 1 point gained? I'm looking here what Gene Howard and Doug Donovan Rossa manager was saying after. He goes, this is senior football. If you don't play for the full 60 minutes, then sometimes you get sucker punched. And I think for Skib, they look back at this, I think, as a point dropped. Like they were leading that game, going in quite late before Ballingeary got their late equaliser. So when you consider the other teams in the group, like when you get a draw in a round robin group like this, it's kind of, I'm not saying it's neither here nor there, but it's not, you don't get obviously the boost of a win, but like that point, how useful will it be? It can be wiped out pretty fast, if you lose your next two games. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, because Dohenys were quite disappointed, and Declan O'Dwyer, the manager, said as much afterwards. Kind of he was saying that Dohenys were outworked by Bishopstown, so he'll want a reaction off Dohenys for their next game, and he'll demand a reaction. And this is a Dohenys team that have got used to getting out of the group stage over the last couple of years and have been involved in the business end of the Senior A Football Championship. So they've work to do as well. So you could say that both Skib and Dohenys are on the back foot in this group, albeit Skib have to have that point on the board. Bishopstown would be delighted going away with 2 points. There's a lot of football to be played, but you could say maybe the best way to describe it, Matthew, is kind of an underwhelming start for the two West Cork teams in this group.
Yeah, exactly. So, and hopefully Dohenys and Skib can gain a bit of form and do enough to progress. But then again, Bishopstown are a very tough team to play against. So we'll move on now to the Premier Intermediate Football Championship. And there was a win for one West Cork team in this grade, but then there was losses for both Bandon and Bantry. So the scorelines in this, in Group 1, obviously, Bullock beating Bantry on a scoreline of 211 to 12 points. And then the other game was Nemo Rangers second team beating Ada 213 to 2-9. And then in Group 2, you have Bandon losing to Glanmire 215 to 17 points. And in the other game then, Niamh Vaughan beat Rockchapel 217 to 114. And then in Group 3, you have Eve Lera beating Kishkane 318 to 17 points. But the main kind of advantage point really from a West Cork point of view, look at this, Castletownbere from Beara beating Macroom 112 to 14 points to start their championship on the right note. I suppose there were some great scoring tallies individually, Kieran, in this. Like Chris O'Jones got 2-9 for Eve Lera, Michael Callahan got 11 points for Bandon. Even Dara Sheedy, 19 years of age, got 5 points for play for Bantry Blues. So great scoring tallies, but I suppose from our point of view, from a team standpoint, Castletownbere getting the win, it was massive.
Yeah, big win for Castletownbere, kind of a late winning point there, so it gets them off on the right foot themselves. And Eve Lera are both on 2 points after the first round. And again, like, it's kind of repeat myself, but getting that win in the first round is so important. Looking to the next game now, it is Castletownbere against Eve Lera. That's on Sunday, August 24th in Cahill. Like that's a big game for Castletownbere. Eve Lera will be favourites in that game, but the fact that Castletownbere to have 2 points on the board, I think that's going to be really important for them. Gives them a fighting chance in this group. You mentioned there Bantry Blues losing their opener. Like that's disappointing for Bantry. They've go back over the last couple of years. They've been almost thereabouts, kind of county finals and so on. Haven't been in the best form this year, if we're being honest. There was a relegation in the county league, and now losing their first championship game. Another game against Ahata on August 23rd. Like both teams lost their openers, and both teams have no points after the first round. So that's all of a sudden it's become a really big game. Kind of not even about kind of getting to the knockout stages. It's just to get a win to put you in a position to try and get to a knockout stage, if that makes sense. And also at the same time just kind of push away those relegation worries. These second round games are huge for the teams that haven't won their first round games, because the pressure is starting to build. You really need to to get a result in your second round game if you've lost your first round game. And the same is going to apply to Bandon. Kind of they'll be disappointed losing that first round game to Glenmire, and they just I know that they're hurling now, so like they'll have no time to feel sorry for themselves, but they're going straight into game against Rockchapel in a couple of weeks' time, and this is a Rockchapel team. It's very much like Bantry Blues, and both would have lost their first round game, so both Bandon and Rockchapel have lost, so there's an opportunity for one team here to get their campaign back on track, which would be, you hope Bandon can. But if you lose that game, all of a sudden you're going into the third round and you're just looking over your shoulder. So wasn't the greatest weekend of this grade for West Cork teams apart from Castletownbere, but we have 2 rounds to go, so a lot can change, Matthew.
Exactly so, and we'll hope that Bandon and Bantry can recover in the next few weeks. Had a great win, obviously, for Castletownbere, but they have some job in keeping down Chris O'Jones after that display. Just on that, before we get on to the intermediate A, Kieran, he does this yearly in this competition. It's almost unfair that you have a player Chris O'Jones' stature in this grade in Cork football. Like, it's absolutely exceptional. 2-9 he got at the weekend.
Yeah, and I was telling people earlier to head across the county bounds and watch David Clifford. Maybe I should be telling people go watch Ivlera play and watch Chris O'Jones, because he's a super year, obviously, with Cork. Kind of we've seen it over the last couple of years. If you go back before he was on the Cork panel, he was shooting the lights out. Himself and Cathal Vaughan, and we've seen Chris Og improve, and he's such a talent, such a fine forward. And for Ivlera to have a player of his caliber in their midst, it just gives him a real fighting chance here. And he's clinical, isn't he? He just takes his chances, and kind of he knows where the goal is. And to have a player of his caliber at this level, I think it's huge. So we get to see him again in Ivlera and Castletownbere in a couple of weeks' time, and I think Ivlera fans will be hoping he continues to do what he does best.
Exactly so, and moving on to the Intermediate A Football Championship, and this was the grade where West Cork teams set alight in many ways. In Group 1, you had Adrigole beating Glanworth to a pulp, really, 2-15 to 6 points. That was a very, very comprehensive win for the Beara club there. And then the other game in that group, Ballinor beat St. Finbarr's second team 2-17 to 2-9. Looking at Group 2, Gabriel Rangers beat Bishopstown and Ahio 19 points to 16. Now, I did go to that game. Gabriels were deserving winners in that game in particular. And the other game in that group, Drumtariff and Kildare. Kildare won that game 14 points to 12. The main story, though, Kieran, was in Group 3. Ilen Rovers got their first championship win since 2022. They beat Borbui 112 to 12 points in Inchigeelagh. Brilliant win for the boys from Baltimore there. And then in the other game in the group, Kilmurray hammering St. Vincent's in that game 4-17 to 12 points. Switch it to Ilen there. What a win for them. And it was absolutely crucial, not only for getting their championship off to a good start this year, but for morale as well, just to get that win under their belts.
I think so. I think it's been a tough couple of years for Ilen Rovers. We've kind of charted it well, obviously, in the Southern Star, how Ilen Premier Senior Football Club back in 2021. They're now playing in the 4th tier of county championship football in Cork. There was back-to-back relegations, I think, in the county leagues as well. But we've seen signs this year, Match, haven't we? Like, in Division 5, I think they're in, where there was just got a bit of stability there this year, got, I think, 5 wins under their belt. But now to get this win, I think to beat Borbui, who are quite a good team, to win 112 to 12 points, it's just such an important moment for this team, because when you're stuck in that kind of spiral of losing games, it's kind of hard to see the way out. But it's kind of, you just hope now that there's a platform here that Ilen can build on, and I think that's quite important. Like they've their 2 points on the board now. Their next game is against Kilmurray, which will be tough. That's on Sunday, August 23rd. Like, this is a Kilmurray team that also won their first round game. But Ilen have points on the board. They've won a championship game. They've stopped that losing sequence when it comes to championships, and I think it's just it's just great to see. And I think the hope is that they can just push on from here.
Exactly so, and I suppose we'll get the other 2 teams as well, Gabriel's and Adrigole. Good wins for them too.
Yeah, 100%. You were at the Gabriel's game. Like, what impressed you about Gabriel's? Because Mitchelstown, and you write about it in your match report for Thursday Southern Star, Matthew, they're always kind of, they're touted as one to watch or a team to beat in this grade. So what impressed you about Gabriel's in this win against Mitchelstown?
suppose the way they went for chances and the way they dominated around the middle of the field, which was surprising because Mitchelstown do have a certain Sean Walsh around the middle of the field who was doing well at inter-county level, a great find by John Cleary and Cork. But in particular, the Gabriel's midfield of Sean Kelleher, Paddy O'Driscoll, and as well a lad who played at wing forward, who didn't actually score the game, but Luca Bowen, he picked up a lot of ball around the middle of the park. I thought he was absolutely brilliant buzzing around there. Keith O'Driscoll, who was on the Cork minor panel that won the All-Ireland in 2019, got 3 points for playing this one. Chris Moynihan got 4 points for play, plus a 2-pointer as well. It was really impressive from Gabriel's point of view. And the issue was that Mitchelstown were winning at half-time in this one. 11 points to 7, I think it was at half-time. But the problem was Mitchelstown only missed 1 chance. Gabriel's went for the kill most of the time. They missed 4 goal chances in the first half. But then when they realised, okay, we're not going to get goals today, maybe we need to chip them over the bar, they were flying it in the second half. And they got a bit of a slight win at their advantage in the second half. And they dominated from pillar to post in the second half, really. Dominated Mitchelstown in this one, outscoring them, I think it was 12 points to 5 in the second half. So that was really, really good from their point of view. And I think they'll be delighted with this, Gabriel's, in fairness. And it is worth noting as well, that's the second year in a row they have beaten Mitchelstown, a Mitchelstown team that have them top class players. And as the manager Michael Bright said to me afterwards as well, is a big town. They are a big town and do have a big pull. And this is a club, Gabriel Rangers. Obviously, they have done well in Intermediate A, and they are one of the favourites to win it. But this club is from a local area in Ballydehob. So it's like it is like apples and oranges in a way, comparing Ballydehob to Mitchelstown. So fair play to Gabriel's for getting the win, in fairness to them. And it will set them up very, very nicely in this championship, which they did get to the semi-finals and lost narrowly to Glanmire last year.
Exactly. I think kind of Gabriel's have ambitions of going far in this championship. They, like you said, they've been kind of thereabouts, but to beat a team like Mitchelstown, really, it's the ideal start for them. You mentioned too, Adrigole. I think Ben Sullivan got 2-3 in that win for Adrigole. They're another team that are looking to push on. They've been in the knockout stages of this championship over the last couple of years, and this was the ideal start. Like this was looking at the table here for a second. It was the biggest winning margin. Like they won by 15. Oh no, sorry, Kilmarnock won by 17, but to win by 15 points really set Adrigole up for going into the next game against St Finbarrs. That's in Skibbereen in a couple of weeks' time. If Adrigole can beat St Finbarrs, they're practically through to the knockout stage, and that's just where they want to be. So really, really good result for Adrigole, who are a team much like Gabriel's with ambitions, So hopefully, touch wood, that we can see the West Cork teams could go well here. But for Ilen, for Gabriel's, and for Adrigole, the dream start to their county championship campaigns.
Exactly so. And just briefly as well, the Premier Junior Championship, there was disappointment for the other Bearer side in Oran. They lost 221 to 111 against Cannavee. And in the other game in that group that Oran are in, Ballydesmond and St. Nick's drew 21 points to 4-9. I have to mention as well for Ballydesmond, Donegal O'Connor, 44 years of age, and he got 17 points. Absolutely brilliant. But from an Oran point of view, Kieran, that's a tough defeat to take. I know Cannavee reached the final last year and will be competitive in this championship once again, I'd imagine, but still a very, very tough defeat to take.
It is, kind of you're looking at this grade for, I suppose for Oran, it's so tough, kind of that's why the Premier Junior grade has just been a kind of such a good outlet for Oran to get those competitive games, in a championship environment, to be guaranteed 3 games, but to start off on losing that opening game, kind of you're looking, they've Ballydesmond up next. The Ballydesmond and Nick's drew in the opening round, so or will be under small bit of pressure there to try and get a good result. Like you mentioned, Donegal O'Connor, like 44 years of age, kicking 17 points. Like we made enough of a fuss a couple of weeks ago when Stephen Sherlock kicked those 18 points against Clonakilty in the Division 1 final. But for Donegal O'Connor, like the 2010 All-Ireland winner, to still be going here in 2025 and still shoot the lights out, like it shows the challenge that's ahead of Oran in a couple of weeks' time. The only way it's kind of up from here for Oran, kind of hopefully like they've those games to come against Ballydesmond and then St. Nick's. So not the ideal start, but like I said earlier as well, for the other teams who lost their opening games, you have time to kind of recover from this, but the second game just becomes so crucial then.
Exactly. So hopefully Oran can recover from that defeat to Cannavee. We'll take a quick break now again, and after the break, we'll look at what's in this Thursday's Southern Star.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is that time of the week again, Kieran, where we'll look at what's in this Thursday Southern Star. And with the club championships opening last weekend, it is absolutely packed this week.
Yeah, it's one of our biggest sports editions of the year so far, 28 pages, and I'm looking here, there's 21, 22 pages of GAA alone. So if you want your fill of County Championship and Carbery Junior Championship and Muskerry Junior Championship football action, definitely pick up this Thursday Southern Star. It's like I put out on Twitter earlier, if you want to see what all the fuss about West Cork sport is about, just see this Thursday Southern Star, because it's we put an awful lot of work into our sports section every week, and you'll see the fruits of that on Thursday this week. There's reading there for the weekend. So obviously we've all the county championship games with West Cork involvement, and also we've 4 pages on the Carbery championships as well. Kilmackie be the reigning Junior A champions, got their campaign off to quite a promising start. Did a kind of a statement win, but there was wins for Barry Row in there as well. There was a couple of draws. So check out Thursday Southern Star for more on that. The roundup of the open round from the Mid Cork Junior A Football Championship. Brendan Keneally brings us up to date with what's happening in Muskerry, and also the Hurley County Championship is thrown in this weekend as well as the Carbery Championship. So Matthew, you were talking to Joe Ryan, the Kilbrittain manager, ahead of Kilbrittain v Barry Row Part 4. This is the 4th year that they'll have met in the championship, and you're also chatting to the Bandon hurling manager as well, for they're hoping to take their league form into the championship. And also the Kilbree hurling manager is chatting to us about the group of death. They're taking on Clonakilty in their opener this weekend, so there's loads of GA inside there. On top of that, we have a 2-page spread on the Cork Miners winning the All-Ireland Ladies Under-18 Football Championship, and obviously we have the Cork camogie win against Waterford covered in depth as well. But there's a lot more happening besides that. So very quickly, Nicola Tuttle, she won her first medal on the world stage, winning a silver at the World University Games. We have that. The Hannah Sexton is the Munster Ladies Senior Road Bowling Champion. We've news of that. We have an interview with Leslie Doyle from Bandon AFC, who's the new Munster FA chairman. Sticking with soccer, Chris Collins from Clonakilty Soccer Club won a West Cork Sports Star Award. So we were chatting to Chris there. And also the West Cork Academy Under 16 team took on Manchester United at Super Cup Northern Ireland on Monday. They're up against none other than Kai Rooney, the son of Wayne Rooney. So if you want to see or hear or read about how that went on, see Thursday Southern Star. And also Martin Walsh is writing about concerns for the Fastnet Rally, as it looks like there's another mini rally going to be scheduled in October. So if you want to read more about that, check out Thursday Southern Star. It's absolutely packed.
Absolutely. So, and as well, our July monthly winner for the Southern Star Celtic Ross Hotel Farming Awards 2025, our July winner will be announced in this week's edition as well in the Southern Star. So pick it up when you have the chance tomorrow. And as usual, if you are further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe. Enter your details and you get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Until then, take care.